So, hello, I'm Georgie Nickram. I'm the Capacity Building Program Manager for Best Starts for Kids. And thank you for joining us on this cool and overcast October afternoon. So co-facilitating this information session today is my colleague here at Best Starts, Kimberly Walker. Kimberly, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Again, Kimberly Walker, the 524 Policy Program Manager. Hello and welcome.
And we were wondering if you could just put your name and your organization name, if you're with an organization, in the chat. That would be really helpful. I also want to introduce Sarah J. Sanford. She is an evaluator here with us at Best Starts for Kids and the manager of the Data and Evaluation Capacity Building Support. And she is going to be watching the chat box for us today. So thank you very much, Sarah J.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Well, I am going to go, that's how quick my scroll bar works, to the agenda to just quickly look together at this so that you know what's coming and approximately when it's coming. We are going to go through first an overview of Best Starts for Kids to just ground us in the why Best Starts exists and the foundations and purposes of it. And then we're going to move on to this particular request for qualifications. And we're going to explain who is eligible to apply, some details about how to apply, the timeline of applying, and the funding priorities. So then we are going to talk a little bit about the criteria that we're going to be using when we review applications and do the interviews. And we'll follow that with about 20 minutes of Q&A. So we hope that you'll write down any questions you have while we are going through the slides. And feel free to ask us during the Q&A. And then last but definitely not least, we're going to be getting to know you a little bit better in the last half hour. At approximately 2:30 p.m., we're going to ask you to give a 2-minute elevator pitch. So from 2:30 to 3, meaning just introduce yourself and your name, give your name, your organization's name if you have an organization, and your main areas of expertise. And the purpose of doing this is that it gives us a chance to start getting to know you and build relationships with you, and also possibly with each other. It gives you a chance to know the other providers of technical assistance and capacity building in King County, to know who's knowledgeable about particular topics. So we're not going to record that part of the session. We're going to turn off the recording after the Q&A. Okay, so logistics. If you have questions, just feel free to add your questions to the Zoom chat box. And you can also unmute to ask questions during the Q&A, which will take place at approximately 2:10. And if you think of a question after this info session, you can email the RFQ coordinator. Her name is Andrea, and she's really great, at the email listed here. Or you can go into Zoom Grants and check the frequently asked questions document, because it might list the answer to your questions. So I think that's it for logistics. Kimberly, it's all yours.
Hey, so let's talk about an overview of Best Starts for Kids. Our vision is happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. We want to see babies born healthy, kids thrive, and young people grow to be happy, healthy, successful adults. So nothing else I leave here was 4 words: happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. Our mission for Best Starts for Kids is to strengthen families and communities so that babies are born healthy, children thrive, and establish a strong foundation for life, and people grow into happy, healthy adults. Our CYAB, which is our Children Youth Advisory Board and Equity Statement, 3 points. Equity is the ardent journey towards well-being as defined by the affected. Equity is disruptive and uncomfortable and not voluntary. And equity is fundamental to the community we want to build. I'm gonna give you a few moments just to read our equity and social justice statement. So I won't read all at you the whole entire time. If you're good, give me a thumbs up. All right, thank you. The principles of Best Starts for Kids are promotion, prevention, early intervention, policy, and systems change. And last but not least, for the overview of Best Starts for Kids, to that first point in that 3-point statement. Equity is an ardent journey towards well-being as defined by the affected. Georgie, back to you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, so what is this investment? Well, through this RFQ, this is the very first RFQ released for the 2022 and 2027 Best Starts for Kids levy, which was passed in August 2021. And currently, Best Starts for Kids implementation plan and intended budget are still pending with the King County Council. And so we need their approval first, but this RFQ is, RFQ is subject to being amended or canceled based on the council's final decision and approval. We should have final information about that approval in late November. But we knew that we needed to start this RFQ process now in order to have TA and CB early in 2022. So for now, we're thinking that we will have approximately $3.8 million for this TA and CB RFQ opportunity for contracts that will last approximately 3 years in length. So through this RFQ, we hope to identify and contract with up to 16 skilled consultants to provide TA and CB to community-based organizations. So for our purposes, TA is support provided to organizations who are interested in applying for the RFPs that Best Starts is releasing. And capacity building, we define as on-demand support for organizations that have been funded by Best Starts for Kids. It's completely voluntary capacity building and TA for the BSK organizations. So basically, TA is provided before organizations get funding and capacity building is provided after they get funding. TA and CB were parts of the first BSK levy that were very often mentioned by our community members as being deeply appreciated. TA really helped us to reach communities that hadn't before gotten government funding. And then CB helped BSK funded organizations to improve their internal infrastructure and systems. We've learned a lot from the first Best Starts for Kids levy, and we're really excited to infuse that learning into this next levy. So folks who are eligible to apply for this opportunity, this RFQ, are not-for-profit organizations, community-based organizations, tribes and tribal organizations, and private consultants with expertise in the needs of children, families, and communities and systems. So applicants must have experience providing culturally responsive services to a diversity of community-based organizations, and community-based individuals and organizations are encouraged to submit applications. Organizations awarded through this procurement process will contract with King County Department of Community Health Services, DCHS. Funded organizations will be required to meet baseline requirements, including having insurance, equal opportunity, record keeping. You can see a sample of the department's services, standard service contract boilerplate in the terms and conditions. And I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat right now in case any of you want that. And if you don't have a formal organization yet, like whether you're a single consultant or a team of independent consultants, that's okay. Individuals can apply. You'd need to submit, when you contract, a W-9 form, and you need to have liability insurance. A group of individuals who are partnering together can apply also. They would need to designate one person as the lead with whom King County would contract and who King County would, invoice and pay. So each month. And so the group would want to make sure that they have a memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement type contract among the group about how they're handling the funding. And then King County would require a copy of that. The other members of the group who aren't the lead person would technically be considered subcontractors by King County, not by in your group. And then King County also requires a copy of all those subcontracts. So I just wanted to say that out front. I did receive a question about that earlier. However, you and your well, however you and your partners are organized, you should be clear in your application responses about that. So you should indicate who you are in your answers. You can do that in general questions 2 and 3 and in narrative question 2. Narrative question 2 is where you tell us about your previous experience. And so you could note there that, for example, you've provided this previous experience, but for this going forward, you're going to be providing technical assistance or capacity building as a newly formed partnership of consultants, for example, if that's what you want to do. You should definitely indicate who the lead person is on the application summary page. There's a part where it says CEO or principal consultant contact information, and you should put the lead person in that spot. And also just mention it in narrative question number 2, who the lead person is. Okay. As I said, you can definitely ask more questions about this if you want to in the Q&A. So I'm going to go on to the next slide about how all of this TA and capacity building connects to BSK's larger work. So through this RFQ, we're seeking TA and CB providers to provide resources and strengthen the assets and capabilities of community-based organizations to better reach Best Start's vision of babies born healthy, kids thriving, and young people growing up to be happy, healthy, successful adults. Best Start strives to offer free technical assistance and capacity building rooted in community strengths, needs, and values. So as I noted earlier, before awards are made, we provide technical assistance, and that's culturally responsive assistance for proposal development and possibly coalition building and outreach for RFP opportunities. And Best Starts also recognizes that many organizations and the communities they serve have historically experienced barriers to accessing funding opportunities for government agencies such as King County. And so to address this, that's why we provide technical assistance to remove linguistic, cultural, and procedural barriers that might prevent qualified organizations from seeking Best Starts for Kids funding. And for capacity building, Best Starts for Kids also recognizes that it won't reach its goals if it only provides programming funds to our funded partner organizations. Funded organizations often want to build leadership and staff and organizational capacity to better serve the children, youth, and families that they want to serve. So as a result, Best Starts for Kids sets aside capacity building funds to support our funded organization's strength and sustainability. And so we define capacity building support as the provision and co-creation of information, tools, and ongoing coaching and support to strengthen programs, organizations, and systems capabilities. So overall, the goal of this RFQ funding is to provide thousands of hours of TA and CB to hundreds of community-based organizations over the first 3 years of this next levy. This is the summary slide. It just provides a brief summary of all the key elements of the RFQ. So first, you need to complete your applications in Zoom grants by 2 p.m. on the afternoon of Friday, November 12th. And we'll be contracting approximately $3.8 million in the RFQ process. The contracts will be for 3 years in length. So the contract period is approximately February 1st or so through December of 2024. We do want to say, though, that we would like technical assistance to be available starting in January of this next year. So we're planning to have some RFPs opening for some of our strategies and Best Starts for Kids on January 3rd or so, which means that there'll be an increasing interest in technical assistance from about mid-January onward. And we want organizations applying to be able to get that technical assistance that they need. So TA providers who are far along in the contracting process could begin working and providing TA in January and submit their January invoice in February, which would most likely be when contracts are signed. So that's a possibility and a hope that we have. It'll be up to how quickly the contracting process goes. So amount of contracts, I want to explain that applicants will not put the funding, a funding request into their applications in Zoom grants. What you'll be sharing is your available hours with us. And you'll do that through general question number 6 in Zoom grants. The question asks, how many hours per month of TA or CB will you and your team be able to provide? And that's and/or if you want to apply for both TA and CB. How many hours will you be able to provide starting in January 2022? So please just consider that deeply. If you have other clients, for example, who are not Best Starts organizations, you could consider how many hours you'll be providing to them and then how many you'll have available to provide to Best Starts organizations and put that number there. And it's a monthly number that we're looking for. So try not to overcommit or undercommit. You should consider how many partners you have on your team providing TA or CB and how many hours they have to provide. So add that up and provide a monthly figure, not a weekly or a yearly, just a monthly figure. So it's all apples to apples. And this is just going to be really helpful information for us as we start the contracting process. And finally, we anticipate contracting with 6 TA providers, 8 general capacity builders, and 4 data and evaluation specific capacity builders. It's possible that a few consultants or firms will cross over and do both general capacity building and data and evaluation capacity building. Or they might be both a TA provider and a CB provider. So we're anticipating that at least 2 consultants will get more than 1 award. I'll move on to the timeline. This slide just provides all of our dates, some of which we've already noted. The RFQ release was on the 1st. The information sessions are today and the 20th. And remember that you don't need to attend the 20th. It will be exactly like this one. And then, oh, but I should mention that any new questions that pop up will be put into the FAQ document, and you should continue to watch that. It'll be in the library in Zoom Grants. We do have a deadline of November 5th for asking King County any questions. So be sure to submit any questions that you have, either through Zoom Grants or by emailing them to the RFQ coordinator. And the contact information will be provided a little later before November 5th. The due date again is November 12th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And then a review panel will review and score all applications submitted between November 15th and 30th. We will then contact folks with the highest scores to be interviewed. We'll be calling applicants to set up interviews on December 2nd and 3rd. You'll need to be available for interview sometime between December 6th and 10th. Following interviews, we'll be calling references. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And we'll also hopefully be able to let everyone know their status for this RFQ by around January 7th. So there are some internal steps that need to happen. For example, we need to have the heads of several departments review and approve the list of the awarded applicants, which may take time, especially around the holidays. So I just ask you to be patient if you don't hear from us by January 7th, but that's our hope. We hope to be doing contract negotiations between January 7th and 28th. And we hope that some TA providers will have simple contracts and will be able to start providing technical assistance in January, but we'll see. So we don't know the exact date that TA and CB will be able to start, but we're hoping late January or early February. So Kimberly, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Georgie. All right, so funding priorities, AKA what we are looking for. So take really good notes on this part right here. Okay, so we want contractors that are grounded in equity, that value and utilize co-creation in developing and improving programs and strategies, that have expertise working with organizations with a range of capacities and cultural and linguistic assets, deep knowledge and specific expertise, skills, and experience as noted in the eligibility and qualifications section on page 7 of the RFQ, and contractors that are connected to and embedded in BSK-focused communities facing disparities by race and place. Also, for the evaluation, please note, you will need to submit monthly invoices and tracking sheets. For those who are going to apply only for capacity building support, so complete brief surveys on each engagement. You will attend check-ins with BSK for review and reflect on working quarterly meetings with other consultants. And you will also complete letters of agreement with each new engagement to establish project scope and timing. And that's my other phone, my apologies. Georgie?
Okay. Thanks, Kimberly. All right. yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the RFQ rating and review and how we're scoring things. There are going to be several phases to the RFQ rating and review process. So first, after your applications are submitted on November 12th, a review panel will read your applications, and you should answer all of the general and narrative questions. There are 6 each, listed on pages 20 and 21 of the RFQ. They're also set up in Zoom grants. And you should note the way the questions relate to the scoring rubric that is on page 12 and 13 of the RFQ. This little green table here is a simplified version of the rubric that's on pages 12 and 13. In phase 1, the review panel will score the answers to the narrative questions. The narrative questions are worth a total of 65 points. The general questions are not scored, only the narrative questions are scored. And then the top scoring applicants will be contacted between December 1st and 3rd to set up a virtual interview. Interviews are worth 25 points. Not everyone who submits an application will be interviewed, only those with the higher scores. We anticipate interviewing up to 25 applicants. All interviews will take place the week of December 6th through 10th. Interviews will be 45 minutes long and will occur using Teams. And then reference checks are worth 10 points. We're asking applicants to upload a 1-page Word or a PDF document, providing us with 2 or 3 organizations that the applicant supported with either technical assistance or capacity building in the past, and who would be willing to talk with us about your work. This list should include the following information for each reference: the name of the organization that you provided TA or CB to, the name of a person who can be contacted from that organization and can provide the reference, the professional title of that person, the mailing address of the organization, the email and phone number of the contact person, and a brief statement noting the reference's relationship to the applicant. Just tell us really quickly, I provided this type of capacity building to this organization for this length of time would be helpful too. The members of the review panel will call the references of the applicants who are being considered for the award. Not all applicants who are interviewed will have reference checks conducted. So we'll be asking the references to tell us about the TA or CB work that they did with you. And then please also attach resumes. Just a 2-page resume is what we prefer for the principal staff who are going to be providing the TA or CB. And this slide is just reiterating that all the proposals submitted will go through a formal review process. And the review panel will carefully follow the scoring rubric found on pages 12 and 13 of the RFQ. And by the way, we noticed a math error there because it was simplified just before we published it. So we'll be fixing that, and we'll post an amended RFQ in Zoom grants. So remember that the full RFQ is a PDF document that's been uploaded, and it can be found right now in the library tab in Zoom grants. Okay, this is you, Kimberly.
Yes, so application tips. Be sure to let us know what languages you speak, read or write. Be very clear about who will be providing TA and capacity building, so the folks on your team. As mentioned earlier on, if you're subcontracting with folks, like we need to have all that information up front and not coming at the end. It was, oops, we added a person. Once you've already communicated with us about that. Also add whether you're applying to provide TA or CB or both. If you're applying for CB, which topic areas you want to provide. And also, if you have any specific expertise, like in software in particular, please do share that with us. And so very important, answer narrative questions fully, but concisely, please, and thank you. Character limit of 3,000 characters.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, so we're nearing the end now of our slides. Let's see, this is just telling you that, the next info session, if you want to tell a friend or a colleague about the next info session, you don't need to attend it yourself. It'll be just like this one. And then you can also email Andrea, our RFQ coordinator, for any questions that you have. You can reach her directly here at this email address, or in Zoom Grants. If you click on general questions, there's a little ask a general questions link that appears underneath, and those emails also go to Andrea. And then to find the FAQ, you go into Zoom Grants and you click on this opportunity, and then you click on this blue show library button, and then scroll down near the bottom, and you'll see documents that we've uploaded. So you should see the RFQ there right now. And then after this session, we'll upload the slides from today, and we'll upload the FAQ, the answers that emerge from today's discussion. And I'm also going to put the link from the recording today in that FAQ. When Andrea receives new questions, she's going to add them to the FAQ and upload new versions of that in that library section. So please do keep checking back. And then there is a glossary of terms that could be helpful to you. It's in the RFQ on pages 14 and 15 that provides a lot of important definitions that might be helpful. I'm going to admit someone from the waiting room. And then let's see. Presentation slides, as I said, are going to be in the library at Zoom Grants. So move on. Okay, we are ready for any questions that you have. Hope you've saved some up. So is there anyone who would like to lead off with any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself.
You can also add them in the chat, and I'll be keeping an eye on the chat if you'd rather ask that way.
Hi there, I have a question. Thank you so much for this information, really helpful. I'm Natalie Jones with Puget Sound Educational Service District, and I'm wondering with how you described kind of capturing that availability of hours per month and not kind of a budget amount, what we should enter for the amount requested area.
So tell me, is it a spot where it asks for a dollar amount? Okay.
Right,
and is it required right now?
I just noticed it on that first page, but I haven't tried to actually enter anything, so I'm not sure.
Okay. I believe it's not required and you should just ignore it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. I'm still learning about Zoom Grants as well, so there's always something new. It's a very kind of robust program.
Very quirky, so bear with us when it comes to Zoom Grants, but it works at the end of the day.
Yes, are there any, did questions get added to the chat, Sarah J?
Yeah, we just got a question from Rebecca. She says, thank you for this info session. I have a question about the funding, wondering if the contract will have a maximum or minimum number of hours for each grantee.
So I think what you're asking is about the amount of capacity building or technical assistance that we can provide to the BSK funded grantees. Is that what you mean, Rebecca?
Yeah, my question is around, so for example, if an organization were funded to provide technical assistance or capacity building, and then they were, for example, going to devote a portion of someone's FTE to these services, would you have maybe a minimum amount of funding that you could count on? I know you're not doing a dollar amount, you're doing it more based on fee for service. But in that contract would, for example, if you said you were available to provide, let's say like 40 hours a month, would the contract say like you will have some kind of minimum assurance that you would get at least this number of hours so the organization could then depend on it to fund a portion of a staff's FTE? Does that make sense?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Okay.
we have not had that in the past, and I don't believe that that's part of our contracting, but that's a really interesting question.
And so to follow up, I guess with that is the contract pretty specific with the amount of hours?
No, it's not. It's really an on-demand system where organizations will be listing your names with every RFP that comes out. So what happens is you'll be provided a certain contract amount based on how many hours you have to give. And then over those 3 years, you'll be basically turning in invoices that work down that amount.
I see.
And so there's no minimum, but there is a maximum that you can work based
Right.
on your contract with us. And then organizations, for technical assistance, they'll see the list of the TA providers and they'll choose the one that they want to work with and they'll contact you directly. So there's no one here at BSK in between that relationship. But then the consultants will turn in an invoice and a tracker at the end of each month that'll let us know how many hours that you provided. So we do everything we can to try to make sure that organizations know about all of those, the TA and CB providers. And one of the things we did last time was we had a blog post that gave little photos and even videos sometimes about the consultants and allowed them to tell everyone about themselves and what their particular expertise and their background is. And that really helped the people who were applying and needing that TA or capacity building to look and see which consultant they wanted to work with. And I would say that it's really kind of worked out. Like the consultants have kind of gotten the hours that they wanted in this first round. Kimberly, do you have anything to add?
I say we haven't had any drought, so everyone's been well supplied with folks to work with. So if there's a concern about not being able to invoice enough hours, to take care of staff, more likely that probably won't be a problem because we will have quite a few grantees in 2.0 and they will definitely need support. So it's just a matter of you right sizing from the get-go what you think you can do and manage, and then working backwards.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Got a question. My name is Emily Nolan. I she, her pronouns. I'm here for a collective of independent consultants and wondering if you could share a little bit more about, I know all organizations have different wants and needs for both technical assistance and capacity building, but what are things that you see kind of raised to the top, or what are the most common areas that folks are looking for technical assistance or capacity building help?
Do you want me to take that, Kimberly, or do you want to?
Sure. Well, I just want to make sure we know the difference with TA, technical assistance, that's the before the contract is written. So all that's to do was helping them prepare the application, helping them get, a lot of times folks don't always know how to articulate their mission or put their program into a model in a way that can be very clear about what they're trying to do, right? So the TA work has a lot to do helping folks kind of get the language correct, help them kind of flush out some things. So that's before the contract. After the contract, our capacity builders are helping to support. And I'll let Georgie answer that for all different topics that have been most popular.
So we have 9 topics that we set out at the beginning to be sort of the pillars of nonprofit strength and infrastructure. So they range from like IT to strategic planning. There's fundraising, human resources, data and evaluation, marketing. And so I would say IT has been very popular. Data and evaluation has been very popular as people chose to or needed to develop their evaluation of their program. Sarah J, do you want to talk about that at all? That was taken up pretty often, right?
Yeah, that's definitely been one of our more popular buckets of funding. And I'll just say that can cover a really wide range of needs, from kind of strategic thinking about evaluation to helping support develop an organization's data infrastructure. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. And people also needed a lot of executive coaching. That was a popular one. People needed human resources guidance about their, setting up their HR internal policies, their policy manuals. Sometimes organizations would go through the normal BSK site visit process, and there would be a few things that they were missing. And so sometimes specific things came up, and we were just really pleased that we were able to say, oh, great, your finance system might need to be upgraded. Let's connect you with this capacity building consultant who has this finance expertise. So I'd say finance was also a really big one. Sometimes organizations are working on just a simple spreadsheet system, or they're working in QuickBooks and they need something more robust. Often they need to like track funds. So having consultants who understand the different softwares that are available to nonprofit organizations, that was a really big need that we saw. And then knowing how to install that software and get them going on it, establishing all the different needs that the organization has internally and then setting that up for them. That was a really big one.
Great, thank you. That's super helpful.
Great.
Georgie, there was a question in the chat that I did respond to in the chat, but just wanted to read it out so everyone heard it in case you're not reading the chat, or if there's anything, Kimberly or Georgie, that you would add on. Stephanie asked, maybe you already covered this. Did you go over the definitions for technical assistance and capacity building? Just want to tease apart the place to indicate which is most supportive to the grantees. And I responded that this will be in the slides in the recording for future reference if anybody needs a reminder, and that essentially technical assistance is for applicants to support their proposal development, and then capacity building is for funded partners' organizational growth.
Mm-hmm. And I would say technical assistance sort of ebbs and flows, wouldn't you say, Kimberly? Like the need for technical assistance is sometimes really high and sometimes not so much.
Yeah, we'll be having consistent RFPs go out from January on. And so we're doing our best, and Victoria can kind of speak to as we're trying to kind of streamline how they come out as best as possible so that there's not this huge rush like every single month for like 10 that are due on the 15th. So there'll be a consistent flow, I will tell you that much. And we're trying our best not to get it where it's just like mayhem and then just like nothing. Did I get that right, Victoria?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Victoria Lynn. I'm the Best Starts for Kids Prenatal to 5 Policy and Program Manager. And right now I'm in the process of working with all the program managers on when they'll be releasing their RFPs. And I'm trying to stagger them all out so that that they do come out on a pretty even basis per quarter, so we don't have these big floods and big droughts. BSK RFPs are usually open for 6 weeks. And our experience with the first round of BSK was usually in the first 3 weeks, it's pretty quiet. Organizations aren't really getting into looking at the proposals yet. And then sometime around the 3rd week on, it's just sort of like, the closer you get to the deadline, the more of a glut you have of people often requesting last minute help. And so I think it got to the point where people were, the technical assistance provider had to ask for, they had to juggle amongst themselves. They had to coordinate amongst themselves who would take on which client because they didn't have, they were maxed out of capacity. And then we ended up instituting a policy, which we might do this time too, where you couldn't request for TA if the application was due in less than 3 days, because otherwise it was just not fair to the technical assistance provider to try to jump in at that point. So we'll figure it out as we go along, but we're hoping that the RFPs will go out in a timely manner. How people will respond, we can't control. So.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I would say with capacity building, there's been a pretty constant need for capacity building once it got ramped up and people understood what it was. So I think it really will depend on if there are a lot of organizations that were funded by BSK before, then they might know what capacity building is and they might jump on it, and there might be a lot of requests right away. If we have a lot of new organizations, then we're going to do a lot of outreach here at Best Starts through the program managers and through the when they first come on board as grantees, to let them know about this great opportunity. We've also had opportunities where we asked the capacity builders to attend, for example, this Best Starts Summit that we have in April, to talk about the expertise that they each have. It gives the Best Starts for Kids funded organizations a chance to really see them and try to picture what projects they could do with those consultants. I would say that a lot of organizations really took advantage of capacity building in a wonderful way, where they said, I've got this finance project here, let's do this. And then next I've got this IT project, let's do that. And then let's work on our strategic planning and our board development. So once people hear about it, there's a lot of opportunity for capacity builders to work with folks. So trying to think of any other tidbits. Hi, Swime, did you have a question?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Swime Kripe, and I'm sorry that I joined late, and you may have already discussed this. So from what I understand with the PDF document that talks about this RFQ, it says that it's open to both organizations and independent consultants. So for independent consultants, if there is a team of consultants who work together and they have not formed an organization, how would you suggest going about with the application?
Well, yeah, I did cover that. And we could put this into the FAQ, more details about that, since we've already covered it. But you're welcome to apply as an individual or as a group of individual consultants. There would just need to be one person in that group who is the lead. And that lead person would be the person who would contract with King County. So there would need to be probably some kind of contract between the lead and the other people who are consulting, some kind of memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement. And then King County would require a copy of that. And then those consultants would be considered subcontractors, and we'd need to have copies of those subcontracts as well, just so we understand how the money is flowing. So we'll put all of that, but I just want you to know that, yes, we welcome individual consultants to apply for this, and we welcome groups of consultants, consortiums or teams or formal organizations. That's all fine.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sarah J, did we have any other questions?
Not so far.
Okay.
I have another question.
Yeah.
For new folks, I'm assuming some of your folks will be returning TA and CB providers that you had in the last grant cycle. And so maybe you would have some new folks as well that have never received BSK funding before or never provided TA or CB before. Does the county or the BSK team, such as yourselves, provide training and support for your TA and CB consultants? Like, for example, if one of the clients had a question that was really specific to the funding that we didn't have the answer to, is there a team of folks that provide some oversight or supervision for your consultants?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Yes, definitely. You'll be working with myself, and Kimberly and Victoria are also, and Sarah J are also involved with the capacity building program and TA. So any questions like that were BSK specific, we would love to help you with those. We also would be encouraging TA providers to communicate about any refinements that could be made to technical assistance. We'll probably be having some convenings for them. And then definitely with capacity building, what we've been doing is meeting every 3 months to discuss any refinements that need to happen to the program. So that could be where we share any difficulties with, sorry, I have a cat. and she is aggressive. But yeah, we talk about any things that are coming up in capacity building, any best practices that we can share with each other. And we really try to build a collegial group of capacity builders that work together as a team. That has been really helpful, because then when one capacity builder doesn't have the expertise that an organization needs, they know they can reach out to the other capacity builders and pass that organization to them with a warm handshake and make sure that that organization gets what they need. So that's been, it's been not a competitive atmosphere at all. It's been very much an atmosphere of sharing with each other and working together. And I would say that the capacity builders have been really wonderful this last time. And to your first point, all capacity builders will have to go through this competitive process again and go through the RFQ the same as everyone else. So
I just want to add that we will add offer opportunities for our new partners to, like, meet 524 folks or P5 program managers, kind of hear about our programming so that you have an overall good sense like what's actually going on. So we do stay in pretty good communication. Georgie helps us kind of tie everything together. So you won't ever really be out the loop. We'll do our best to make sure that you feel like you have the context in which you're doing the work with our folks.
Mm-hmm. And we're planning to, yeah, go ahead, Sergi.
Oh, Georgie, would you maybe want to stop screen sharing so we can all see each other's faces a little more?
Great idea.
Since we've gotten through the PowerPoint. I just will add that for the Best Starts for Kids data and evaluation capacity builders, I do provide some basic training on the overall Best Starts for Kids evaluation framework and approach. Just so you know what we're asking of partners. And oftentimes, if you are working with a partner on something specific to Best Starts for Kids reporting, it might be helpful. We have a lot of documentation, but sometimes it's helpful to connect directly with the evaluator for that program. And so that's the role Georgie and I play. Is, we're not everybody in BSK, but we facilitate those relationships as well.
All right. Well, do we have any other last questions? Okay, well, let's move on to the elevator pitches then. I'm going to turn off the recording.